Many years ago, in a quiet village surrounded by tall trees and slow rivers, there lived a boy named Daniel. The village was peaceful. People farmed, children played by the river, and elders gathered each evening to tell stories beneath the old baobab tree. Daniel loved listening to those stories more than anything. The elders spoke about distant lands where snow fell from the sky like feathers, where cities touched the clouds, and where rivers froze so hard that people could walk on them. To Daniel, those places sounded like magic. One night, after the villagers had returned to their homes, Daniel remained under the tree staring up at the sky. The stars were bright and endless. "Is the world really that big?" he whispered to himself. An old traveler sitting nearby overheard him. The man had arrived in the village earlier that day. His clothes were dusty from long journeys, and his eyes carried the quiet wisdom of someone who had seen many lands. "The world is bigger than most people imagine," the traveler said softly. Daniel turned in surprise. "Have you really seen those places?" he asked. The traveler nodded. "I have walked through cities where millions of people live together," he said. "Yet sometimes those places are lonelier than the smallest village." Daniel frowned. "How can that be?" he asked. "In a village," the traveler replied, "people know each other's names. They listen to one another. But in many great cities, people are always rushing. They forget to truly see the person standing beside them." The traveler then reached into his bag and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Slowly he opened it. Inside was a small lantern made of bronze and glass. It glowed with a soft golden light even though there was no flame inside. Daniel's eyes widened. "What kind of lantern is that?" The traveler placed it gently into Daniel's hands. "This lantern shows something many people have forgotten," the traveler explained. "Wherever it shines, it reminds people of the power of listening." Daniel held the lantern carefully. Its warmth felt comforting, almost alive. "But why give it to me?" Daniel asked. The traveler smiled. "Because you are someone who listens." That night, Daniel placed the lantern beside his bed. The soft golden light filled the room. As he slowly drifted to sleep, the lantern began to glow brighter and brighter until the light surrounded everything. Then suddenly, the wind began to swirl. Daniel felt the ground disappear beneath him. When the light faded, Daniel was no longer in his small village. He stood in the middle of a large snowy city. Tall buildings surrounded him. Cars moved along wide streets. Snowflakes fell quietly from the gray sky. Daniel looked around in amazement. He had never seen snow before. "This must be one of those distant lands the elders spoke about," he whispered. As he walked through the city, he noticed something strange. Hundreds of people were passing by, yet no one spoke to each other. Some stared at their phones. Others rushed past with worried expressions. It felt busy but strangely silent. Soon Daniel reached a small park covered in snow. A frozen pond reflected the pale winter sky. On a wooden bench sat a young girl about his age. She wore a thick coat and gloves, but her face looked sad. Daniel approached carefully. "Hello," he said kindly. The girl looked surprised. "Oh, hello," she replied. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I'm Emma," she answered. Daniel sat on the other side of the bench. "Why do you look so sad?" he asked. Emma hesitated before speaking. "My parents are always working," she said quietly. "Everyone here is busy. Even when people are together, they are looking at their phones." She gestured toward the park path. "See." A couple walked by without speaking. A man passed them while staring at his screen. Two teenagers sat together, but each was looking at a different device. Emma sighed. "Sometimes it feels like no one really listens anymore." Daniel looked down at the lantern he was holding. Suddenly, he remembered the traveler's words. This lantern reminds people of the power of listening. He gently placed the lantern on the snowy ground between them. The golden light spread slowly across the park. At first, nothing happened. Then something small began to change. An elderly woman struggling with heavy bags slipped slightly on the snow. A man walking nearby noticed her and rushed over to help. "Are you all right?" he asked. They began talking. Two teenagers sitting silently nearby lowered their phones and started laughing together. A father playing with his young son looked up and noticed Emma sitting alone. He waved kindly. The park slowly filled with voices and conversation. Emma looked around in surprise. "What is happening?" she asked. Daniel smiled softly. "People are remembering how to listen." Emma stared at the glowing lantern. "It feels warm," she said. "Yes," Daniel replied, "because kindness is warm." Emma thought for a moment before speaking again. "Maybe cities don't need more technology," she said slowly. "Maybe they just need people who care about each other." Daniel nodded. Before he could answer, the lantern began glowing brighter again. The wind returned, swirling around them. Emma looked worried. "Are you leaving?" she asked. Daniel picked up the lantern. "I think the lantern has more places to visit." Emma smiled. "Then wherever you go, remind people to listen." "I will," Daniel promised. The light grew brighter until everything disappeared again. And somewhere far away, in another part of the world, the lantern was preparing to show its light once more. Because sometimes the greatest wisdom is not found in speaking, but in listening. And Daniel's journey had only just begun.